Hello investigators and welcome to Until the End of Time. My name is Veronica. Cthulhu looms on the horizon, arriving in Arkham with the upcoming The Drowned City expansion. The investigators are going to need every advantage they can get in their fight with this iconic Ancient One. Which is why today I've come to the Arnhem's Oorlogsmuseum. Inside here is a tool that we might use against he who lies dreaming. Come, let's have a look inside. As the Arkham Files universe is set in a fictional version of our own history, circa 1920s, there are plenty of spells and other magical effects, but there are also tools and weapons straight out of our own history. This is the Luger, an Austrian pistol design perhaps best known for its use by the German military during the Second World War. This pistol got imported into America by the US military for testing. While they preferred the US-made long Colts and didn't adapt them, some of these weapons may have made their way into the hands of some scoundrels. But how does it work in the game? Let's find out, shall we? This is the Luger P08. It is a 2-cost asset for 0 XP. It has a single combat icon. As you've most likely already noticed, it is a rogue asset, so it won't surprise you that its traits are item, weapon, firearm, and illicit. Now for the rules text. The Luger uses 2 ammo, which for a 2-cost weapon is actually on rate. As a free triggered ability, you can spend 1 ammo and exhaust the Luger to fight, getting +1 combat for your attack. That's right, this weapon doesn't cost an action to fight with, but it also doesn't deal any bonus damage. This is a really interesting position for a weapon to sit in. I'd say baseline for weapons at 0 XP is that they need to be able to deal with a 2 health enemy in a single action, and technically this does that, but it does require you to make 2 tests. It is much more effective at dealing with 1 health enemies, but much worse against bigger enemies than conventional weapons. Fortunately, there is one more ability on the Luger. By spending an action and 1 resource, you can replenish all the ammo on it and ready it. This is somewhat fascinating to me. We haven't really seen firearms with a built-in reload mechanic like this before, and it is perhaps a reaction to the prevalence of melee weapons that never run out of uses. At the cost of 1 action and 1 resource, you can effectively buy 2 additional fights. The round of the card takes up a single hand slot, as is to be expected for a pistol like this, and it is card number 50 for the people updating their spreadsheets. So, who wants this? It's a tricky question, but I can imagine a few places it could slot. The first obstacle to this card succeeding is that its fight action only gives a combat boost of 1. Given that a lot of rogues have combat scores of 3 or worse, actually hitting will be a challenge. But fortunately, there are 2 outliers. Tony Morgan and Michael McGlenn are both rogues with a combat of 5. We know that Michael McGlenn is the rogue for the Drowned City. However, at the time of this video being recorded, this promotional image is all that we know about him. As such, we can tell that he has 5 combat, as well as that his text box makes reference to both ammo and firearms, but we don't know much more about him. And I'd rather not spend too much of this video speculating about an upcoming investigator. Instead, let's focus on investigators that we do have the text for. Since Tony already gets bonus action to fight things, does he really want the Luger? Well, maybe. One of the important play patterns with Tony is that you always want to use his signature weapons to deliver the killing blow, so you can recoup your bounties. As in our history, it would seem Tony prefers the American-made long Colt over the German Luger. But the two could work very well side by side when dealing with 3 health enemies. Get a free shot off with the Luger, then finish them off with the long Colt. Another potential use is 1 health aloof enemies, which we're talking about whippoorwills. Tony's bonus action could be used to either fight or engage, so this way you can pull in the birds, fire a shot with the Luger, and then still have 3 actions left. Additionally, since Tony's bounties provide him with both cash and additional actions, he shouldn't struggle keeping the Luger reloaded. Now, beyond these 2 specific investigators, there's a bunch of ways that our 3 combat rogues could make this weapon useful. If we're talking about combat and rogue, we have to talk about dirty fighting. This talent from Scarlet Keys has defined a new style of rogue enemy management, combining evasion with combat to great effect. Now, at first I was ready to write off dirty fighting, since the Luger doesn't have a fight action. However, upon reflection, I don't think that actually matters as much. What we need is that +2 skill value against evaded enemies, and it is very likely the Luger isn't our primary or at least only weapon. So we use the bonus action provided by dirty fighting to attack with whatever other weapon we're holding and then finish them off with the Luger. And combining evasion with the Luger does have some merit on account of the reload action. Not only does it replenish your ammo, it also readies the weapon, so you get another shot with it the same turn. If you're engaged with an enemy while doing that, you're going to have to provoke an attack of opportunity, so evasion is a good way to get another shot in the same turn cycle. Other methods of boosting our stats are cards like Hard Knocks or High Roller. I doubt you're going to include either of these talents purely for the Luger, but they are a perfect way to make sure you land that critical shot whenever you need to. There is one last talent that I wanted to discuss, which is actually adaptable. While most of the time, a weapon that reliably deals 2 damage for an action is better than a weapon that deals 1 damage for no action, there are absolutely situations where you just have to deal with 1 health enemies now, and usually it is something like an Acolyte with Doom on it. As such, even if your deck normally doesn't want the Luger, if you know a scenario with a lot of tricky 1 health enemies is coming up, consider swapping out. The lack of combat boost might prove a challenge, but this is something you can solve with basic skills, such as Unexpected Courage or Overpower. And speaking of skills, there's a few more that might get additional utility when combined with the Luger, whether it is Watch This to generate a few resources without spending an action, or Quick Thinking so you can take another action whenever you need to. That last option allows for a lot of advanced trickery because the Luger's fight action is not restricted to only being during your turn, which is a chance for me to show off one of my favorite skills in the game, Stunning Blow, which automatically evades an enemy after hitting them. There's actually a timing window during the enemy phase, after Hunter enemies have moved, but before any of them attack, during which you could fire the Luger and use Stunning Blow to prevent one of them from attacking. These are just some of the considerations that I've come up with when looking at this card. I'm sure that with Michael McGlenn in the box, there will be a lot more interesting cards for any fans of firearms. I'm really curious to hear what you think and what decks you'll play the Luger P08 in. I would like to thank Fantasy Flight Games for giving me a chance to preview a card from the upcoming The Drowned City expansion, and I want to thank the Arnhems Oorlogsmuseum for allowing me to record there. Finally, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you until the end of time.